Just a very specific question. I understand si Attorney Acodili said na hindi pwede mag-comment on the process of designating the 29. But I just want to ask a specific question kasi yung, for example, certain names there were actually cleared by Manila Court Regional Branch 19 of the terrorist tag. So yung specific example is si Rafael Bailoses. Sinabi ng Manila Court na they didn't find any link between Bailoses and the CPP, and that's why they took them out of the prescription list. So siguro my question lang is, given that court ruling, does this mean that the ATC found new evidence after the 2018 ruling that points to Rafael Bailoses being a member of CPP? And may we just know if is this the case na may new evidence na that came to light, and if possible to give even just details about the tagging. I mean, the reason why that evidence, kasi medyo hindi lang klaro why he made it to the list, and wala nga explanation yung designation, right? So siguro just more details. Just I'm not naman asking for anything that will compromise any security matter, but whatever lang, more details lang siguro for public transparency so people understand also the process that the ATC took.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Pia, for understanding that we really cannot discuss the details with all due respect to the processes of the Supreme Court. With respect to your question, actually, the process of designation is different from the process of prescription. Designation is administrative in nature, while prescription is through judicial process, as you have mentioned. We do have pieces of evidence submitted to the ATC, and based on that pieces of evidence and validated information, the ATC found probable cause to designate, to include him in the designated list. So if you're going to ask me what are those pieces of evidence, again, my apology that I cannot discuss with you in details what are those pieces of evidence, but we assure you that the ATC received credible information, validated information, supported by these pieces of evidence.
And then, ma'am, yung evidence na to, just to clarify the timing, it was submitted to the ATC after the Manila Court cleared si Rafael Bailoses. After. So 2018 yun.
Whether it is after, or I have to be honest with you that I'll have to check if whether it is after the dismissal in the DT court, but one thing is for sure that this evidence is after the designation of the CPP-NPA as a terrorist organization last December.
Okay, quick follow-up.
Right.
Are the people
that will be your follow-up question, no? Sorry, Pia. That will be your follow-up, no? All right, thank you.
Okay.
No, sige, go ahead.
So ma'am, just a quick clarification, the ones who are designated, do they get a letter from the ATC or any private correspondence from the government before they're designated? And does that letter include siguro more details of their designation, or do they just see it also on Manila Times or the website?
After the issuance of the resolution for designation, Ms. Pia, the resolution is published in a newspaper of general circulation. Of course, it's also published on the online official gazette.
So wala nang letter to the designees? Or
wala.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Pia. And Attorney Busatog, you're raising your hand. You have an addition before we proceed to the next reporter.
Yes. On the idea of designation, because while it cannot be discussed publicly the basis of designation, but the person designated actually has the right to request for delisting, and there are a lot of enumeration as to the ground why he should be delisted. And if the person designated actually has a case or has on his mind that he should not be there on that particular listing, I think the remedy is very much available to that person. Whether or not he could actually use yung sinabi the person who yung ano natin sino yun? Si Ma'am Pia. Ma'am Pia actually said that there is actually a ruling by the RTC 2018 about his affiliation with the CPP-NPA, and actually that could be used before the ATC to actually prove that he should not be on the list of designated persons. Mga tipong ganun ba? But I think even if it cannot be discussed publicly, that remedy is available to that person.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Attorney Cosantog, our spokesman for legal affairs. And at this juncture, I'd like to call on our next guest who's going to ask the next question. Ms. Chiara Zambrano, you're recognized po, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Actually, my question was supposed to be the same as the one Pia asked. So I'll just add siguro follow-up na lang dun sa puntong tinatanong kanina ni Pia. So ibig sabihin po ba nito na yung mga court rulings where prescription is the matter does not hold water where designation is the concern? Hindi po natin ginagamit na basihan yung mga rulings ng korte when the same individuals are concerned?
And yes, thank you, Chiara. And you're addressing that question to
Maybe I'll
Attorney
Yes,
Marlon. Go ahead, please.
As articulated kanina by Attorney Wing, we have two processes. So for example, in a prescription case, it has to be filed before the regular trial courts. And probably the parameters of determination of prescription is quite different than the designation itself, kasi the limitation of designation, because of the limitation of designation, which is actually mere an executive fiat, parang determination lang siya ng probable cause. So can it be used? If you're talking to as a matter of evidence, kung ako siguro yung abogado ng person designated and there are available literature for me to actually prove my case, whether in the designation case or whether in the prescription case, actually I would be willing to use it, but the appreciation whether or not it will hold water probably will lie before the ATC or before the RTC. Depende yan sa appreciation o ano yung context pa ng ruling na yan, either ng ATC or ruling ng regular courts. But definitely they are not prohibited as matters of evidence.
Okay. Just reading into the replies of some of the supporters of the designated individuals, they're liking this to sort of a glorified red tagging because the resolution does not have any evidence presented alongside of it that would concretize the basis for designation. Baka pwede niyo pong iklaro, bukod sa pagpangalan, ano ba yung actionable dito sa pag-designate ninyo? And will the public ever be given access to the basis for this designation?
If I may answer? Yes, Papo. Again po, the designation of these individuals is based on probable cause. When I say probable cause, there are pieces of evidence submitted to the ATC. However, this evidence is not available to the public, but of course, those who are included in the list can always file a verified request for the listing of their names from the designation. So we have pieces of evidence po received by the ATC.
All right, thank you, Attorney Wang. Attorney Marlon, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I would like to make a comment on sa concept that a designation is a glorified red tagging. In context kasi, ito yung pagkaintindi ko sa sinasabi lang red tagging, no? Parang you associate this person with a communist ideology. But designation is quite different because it's very specific. You are saying that this person is related to activities of terrorism. It does not pertain to ideological perception or being a part of an ideological society, but it's more of the actions. And these actions are backed up by testimonies, affidavits, or piece of evidence that were the product of fraud intelligence by the intelligence community or other people that can verify as to why this person should be designated. So, para kasing when you say it's red tag, winatter down niya eh, yung gravity of the offense. We're talking here about terrorism in itself. No, it is its boundaries transcends ideologies. So second is that it is done under the premise of due process. Number one, we have the ATC. It was passed by Congress. They have remedies available to them. Kahit yung decision ng ATC can actually be questioned before the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court has an overarching power when it comes to actions by the Executive Department. So they can actually review the actions of the ATC. So for me kasi, we have process open. The people designated have remedies. But if that is the perception, that's a glorified red tag, I think it's more of it waters down the idea or the gravity of the offense.
Yusek, if I may.
Yes, Attorney Weng, and then I think Yusek Lorraine is raising her hand. No, after you, I'll recognize Yusek Lorraine. Go ahead, po.
Thank you po, Yusek Joel, sir. I think, sir, there's a need for us to differentiate the process of prescription and designation. Designation po is against individuals, while the process of prescription po is launched against organizations and groups. Hindi po natin pinoprescribe ang individuals under the law, but they can also be designated. So individuals po is through designation and prescription po is lodged against groups and organizations. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Attorney Weng. Yusek Lorraine, you were
I'm
about to say something.
yeah,
Please go ahead.
I want to respond to that comment about which that. So in the first place, our courts have already spoken. There is no such thing as red tagging over and over. If by red, when they say red tagging, if by that they mean being identified as a member of the CPP-NPA-NDF and that it endangers them, our courts have already spoken all the way up to the Supreme Court that there is no danger to life, liberty, and security when you're identified as a member of the CPP-NPA-NDF. No such thing. And in fact, red tagging is an invention of the CPP-NPA-NDF that they use to silence those who speak the truth about them.
All right.
Yusek Joel, sir, if I may add.
Yes, Attorney Weng. Sige, Attorney Weng, go ahead.
Opo, we would like to clarify lang po that the government has no policy on red tagging. Over and over again, sinasabi ho natin yan. Wala hong policy ang gobyerno ng red tagging. Thank you, sir.